everyone. I'm Tammy Mastroberte, founder of Elevated Existence and publisher and editorial director of the award-winning Elevated Existence magazine. Joining me today is Dr. Laurie Ann Levin. Laurie was a former talent agent for stars such as Madonna, Michael Jackson, and Michael Keaton, and she was also a Hollywood film producer at 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers. But she left show business behind in 1995 to become a doctor of clinical psychology. In 1998, she founded Moonview Sanctuary, a highly innovative, holistic, and psychological treatment and research institute with a group of 65 practitioners. And her first book, that came out in 2009, was an award-winning spiritual memoir titled God, the Universe, and Where I Fit In, and it won national recognition and awards. Today, Laurie is joining us, and we are talking about her newest book, which is an interactive personal journal that is really meant to help other people get in touch with their higher self and their own higher power within. It's called Life in Life, Live Longer, Strengthen Your Relationships, and Create a Healthier Life, a meditation journal. So Laurie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so thrilled to have you here.
Tammy, you didn't mention one of the most important credits to my CV, which is working for you.
Oh. That is true. She has written for Elevated Existence magazine as well. So thank you for that. That is very true. I want to, for those of you who maybe are new to the work that you do, for people out there, you really combine your psychologist background with your own intuitive abilities to help your clients. And I know much of your work is really focused on this connection that we all have to a higher power, to our higher selves. I've learned a lot from you personally about making this connection. So can you share a little bit about your background and then how this new journal kind of fits in and brings all that together and how people can use it?
Sure. I was a little kid who knew things and didn't know how I knew them, but I knew them. And I know that some children have visions, and some people tell me that they've had prophetic dreams when they were young or imaginary playmate. But I have this belief that we're all plugged in, but we just don't know exactly how to access it. Everybody's had the chills unexpectedly as a punctuation to something that's awe-inspiring or affects them greatly. We've had twitches in our eye that aren't necessarily biological or structural, that come unexpectedly, high-pitched tones in our ear, dreams that affect us greatly, big dreams, what the Native Americans would say are big dreams. We've had things where you think about somebody all day long and you haven't seen them in years and they're on your voicemail when you get home. So there are these moments where we're all really intuitively plugged in, but we can't decipher what the meaning is. So I went on a hunt, and yes, show business was 20 years of my life, but show business is actually incredibly spiritual. When you get 100 people or more all working on one project, that improvisation, that co-creation, that creativity is highly spiritual. Needless to say, there are a lot of non-spiritual behaviors, but for everybody is highly creative and very loving most of the time.
Right.
With respect to how I got here, was I knew that there was a way to communicate to people how plugged in they were and how to get there. That's what the book's about. It's a how-to on trying to see, inclusive of all belief systems, what works for you. And meditation is the first entree. When you have a God shot, for those who call it that, you have to stop and sit and go in and go up and really take stock that it didn't come for granted, that there is something behind it, even if you can't decipher it right away.
So I have reviewed the journal, actually, and so it seems to me the way that you have it set up, and I love it, is that, people read, they can read a passage almost like a meditation. They can even, sit and then meditate themselves on what they've read. And then they initiate with the questions that you set up. They kind of initiate this internal dialogue or this dialogue with their higher self or with a higher power. So, And I know you encourage, people can do it pen and paper like a real journal, or if they want to do it on their iPhone. Or I actually, ever since meeting you, I do a lot of it. I just sit down with my eyes closed at the computer and I type. But is that basically the essence of what the journal is experienced like?
Somewhat. I think that the biggest piece, of course, in the invitation is the hugest piece. If you volitionally come to better yourself and access guidance, you will receive it. There is definite benefit in relaxation, but that extra added piece of meditational prayer to really self-inventory is huge, because the universe does listen and there is response. It may not be on your timing, your conscious reality of what you expect in this time-space continuum. It may be through somebody saying the right thing at the right time, or you having experience with an animal, or having a prophetic dream. It doesn't have to come exactly the way and when you exactly ask for it. The other piece I want to drive home, because I think that this is also a great part about the book, some people can't sit still. They can't clear their mind. They can't meditate. But this teaches you how to be on the earth, be in doing, be there for yourself, but how to go in and go up. So what happens a lot of times is our brain gets caught in a jag of self-deprecating thought, or difficult internal states, or our best friend hangs up on us, or the girl we asked out on a date doesn't say yes. Whatever happens, you get caught in an old trauma cycle. This helps you get out of it and reshift, which has been known through meditation to shift neurological understanding of your brain. You can groove a new response so that you're not stepping in that same manhole time and time again.
Right, absolutely. And so that was actually one of the questions I had. Was I feel like people who are maybe in touch with their intuitive side, or maybe some people who don't even know that they're in touch with it, tend to be, I think, more sensitive, tend to absorb things they don't realize they're absorbing, and they become very overwhelmed. And so, you kind of get into that zone where you just want to shut it all off, or you want to shut it all down. My question is, how can we learn to be in that doing state and still stay above all of that?
Good question. I want to also accentuate that sometimes for lack of a better word, the crud, the negativity, the dark, the fears, isn't all of your making. Sometimes we are really hard on ourselves, and we get caught in a rumination or a jag or a perseveration on stuff that doesn't do us any good. But some of it is not. Like, we're hardwired for connection. So after spending 10 minutes together with somebody, you're actually trying unconsciously to syncopate your heartbeat. So if you're completely happy and really joyous, and you're sitting next to somebody, and we've all had this happen, where their energy field is really difficult, like, get away from me, I do not want to vibe with you. Right. And they might be a perfectly wonderful person, but they're spinning at a rate where you just don't want that vibratory field. You excuse yourself, and I don't know where you are, but you can go to the restroom, you can go to use the time while you're waiting for a friend at a booth for lunch, you can use the time while you're driving in the car, but syncopate your breaths, slow them, pull the energy from the earth, imagining, thinking, visualizing with your eyes open if you're driving. But imagine pulling the core energies of the earth up through your spine to the top of where people who have near-death experiences, and this is thousands of people over thousands of different religions, different age brackets, different economic strata, no exposure to media. They describe tapping into these high vibrations as a white light. When they leave their body, it feels like all joy, all ecstasy, all knowing. The minute they have a question, they have an answer. That's that feeling of why people get homesick for the light. So imagine when on that inhale of tapping into that light and bringing on the exhale that light through your body. So even if you're driving or waiting at a booth or dutifully meditating because you want to get the answers, try that exercise of just that breathing. Also, if you cannot escape that person's energy, send them a prayer and imagine a shield going up a force field of saying, you know what, I'm going to give it to God or whatever your version of awe and highest vibration is. Take care of me because I don't want to live in that gunk, and I truly do honor that that person may need it at that time.
Right, right. So that's something that we can do in advance of meeting with someone we might know, who might affect us, or I'm assuming we can do that right in that moment as well.
Yes, you can do it in advance. I actually have on my website a patent. I was trying to get the US government to prove that guidance realm existed by creating a work endeavor steps to try to bring a group into higher vibration together before you started a job or any endeavor.
Yes.
But you can do that, and I recommend it for a big meeting. You clear energy in your imagination or when you think, visualize, send energy. We all know the power of prayer. The big research on how there were two groups of rats. They were both infected with toxins. One group was prayed for, one group was not. The group that was prayed for healed much quicker. So we all know the power of unity and focus in a high level of vibration. Clear the energy in that room before you go into that meeting. Make sure you talk, and this is also in the book, about bilocation. Bilocation is the act of staying within yourself and being with another. They do not have to be living to do this, but they have to give permission. They can be living. They do not have to be near you. They can be in another location. You're actually staying solid and grounded within yourself while your energy, a part of you, goes into them. Much like you enter a car, you imagine walking into them. Much like you touch the steering wheel and turn on the ignition, you ask permission from this person whether or not you can have a silent, unearthbound communication with them. Much the way I referenced how you think about somebody all day long and there they are on your voicemail, you're actually doing that volitionally. And if you get a no, do not disturb sign, you do not go there, or you ask an intermediary, that which is loving force to you, whether God, Archangel Michael, guides that you know that are of high vibration to you, to go get that answer. What do I need to know about this meeting before I actually walk into this meeting? What do I need to know about this, him or her, before I actually pose a question? And if you are completely, which nobody is, squeaky clean and unattached to outcome, you actually might get something that's beyond your own comprehension, which is when you know you're actually dabbling in great alternate realm communication.
Right, right. And I love even in throughout the journal, one of the questions you ask again and again is, and it's one of my favorite things because I think a lot of people don't think to do this, but you always say, what do I need to know that I wouldn't even think of asking? And I think that's so great because sometimes we feel like we need to solve everything ourselves and we need to know everything. And this is just saying, listen, you know way more than me. So, what can I do or what do I need that I wouldn't even think of? And I love that you include that in that as well.
Oh, thanks, Tammy. I also wonder, because obviously there's no way to prove a lot of this, it's just your trust and your faith knowing that time and time again, it may feel like your thought, but it's something that's so beyond anything you would have actually thought. We get stuck in our pattern, in our head, even the way we problem solve. So blowing it open and saying, what do I need to know that I wouldn't even know to ask? allows the high part of you that's in communication with many universes, realms, angels, to actually invite in this information that might be new to you, but in fact, is it really? Did you not journey on the dream plane and go pull this posse together that's really there for you? Because this book is channeled. I didn't write this book by myself. And it's not the way I speak, it's not the way I write. It's truly channeled. And part is what I've thought, and part of it is nothing that I could have ever dreamed of.
Right.
So I know that consciousness is speaking to a lot of us to try to make this time of true spring cleaning. I know this is for spring, but the planet is in spring cleaning. I mean, we really... So yes, I'm glad you love it, and I do believe that is truly one of the core gifts of this book, is teaching you how to blow open old structures and exhaust old patterns and go to the more expanded you. I also want to say that don't get down on yourself if there's backlash, because when you expand too quickly, you really need to kind of savor what it is you're moving toward and understand it in new ways. So there is pushback. So if you go deep into the book, that's why I recommend 1 chapter a week. You can plow through it, but it is also exciting to do it in a group or do it with your loved one, a mate, because it's powerful to get that feedback even from a living human being.
Right. And actually, one of the first exercise in the book that you have is actually called, what you mentioned just a second ago, exhausting old patterns. So why is that the first thing, and how do we even start recognizing some of these old patterns that we need to let go of?
Something that doesn't serve us is like a rotten piece of fruit in our refrigerator, and it doesn't go away until we can't avoid it. We've got to pull it out and look at it and go, okay, where did this come from? What part of my past informed it? And even though we tend to get angry at well-meaning caregivers that kind of gave us, either directly or indirectly, some of these imprints, it's time to honor that. Really take it out and look at this rotten piece of fruit and say, what did I learn from having this all these years? What gifts did it inform in my personality that helped shape the best parts of me? So even though I wouldn't have wanted to smell this piece of fruit my whole life, I'm actually glad, because it heightened my my sense of smell, and I now know what it smells like to not smell it, and you really truly have to honor it. So before we can give up the old patterns, we have to say, I'm never going to unknow what I already know, because there were many gifts from it, and really take that in and not try to kill off any parts of self, because you'll go into backlash, but to honor all of that and then say, okay, I don't even know what my expansion is going to look like, but I am game. Blow me open and see what happens in a gentle, loving way. The invitation is everything.
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the biggest pieces that I know people struggle with, I actually teach a lot on uncovering signs and synchronicity in life, right? But I think where people get stuck a lot of times, whether it's a sign from the universe, whether it's through, intuitive journaling or a loved one who has passed, people get stuck on, well, how do I know that was them? Or how do I know in writing this that it's not just me making this stuff up, right? So people get stuck on that a lot. So what advice do you have in terms of people accepting that what they're getting is real?
This is unconventional, but you almost have to face your death, because in facing your death and being accepting, which is a whole chapter on accepting your death and looking at your entire lifetime, you are now not going to be attached to outcome, because you are ready to actually, I'm not saying you're wishing your death at all. I'm just saying that you've accepted your entire life, and that if you died today, your life had meaning, and you're not unwilling to accept all the things that are mini deaths, facing the unknown without anxiety, jumping off a cliff for a dare in business, not knowing completely what your outcome is, asking somebody to marry you and not knowing the outcome. All of those huge gargantuan pieces of living life fully in trust. Then and only then do you know that what you're getting on a repeated basis is accurate. Plus, guidance is never, ever deprecating. It is always supportive. It is always loving. It is always gentle. When you ask, which is one of the questions that I ask on a chapter basis, what is mine to do at a soul level? Your soul will never respond to you. Your highest self will never be there for anything but your highest good. It is loving all the time.
Right. That's very true. And so one of the last things I kind of want to leave with, and you've already offered so many different tips that we can use, but for our audience, if they wanted to start now to kind of open up that channel that maybe they've been thinking about, or they think that they have but they're not sure, are there any tips that you can give to them to open up that communication starting now?
Yeah. One is really, do you know what kind of person you are as far as your port of entry to intuitive material? Are you a visual? Are you auditory? Are you kinesthetic? Do you usually get prophecy through dreams? What's the way that your first hit of intuitive material, chills is kinesthetic, physical, a pang of electricity out of nowhere where you haven't moved a muscle, a visual like a daydream. So your port of entry is really important, and pay attention to that port of entry because that's the way you probably process intuitive information first. Also, pay attention because that which is trying to communicate with you as a sender and receiver may not work in your port of entry. So you've got to leave room for signs to come in an unexpected way. Also know that you're about 85 to 90% water. You're an electromagnetic field. Your soul is an electromagnetic field. When you're reaching intuitive material, you're connecting to that which only has an electromagnetic field. So pay attention to electrical feelings that you can render in a bath, in a shower, because water conducts electricity in a more concentrated way. That's why often I'll suggest to you not to sit still and clear your mind, but go take a bath or walk along the water or find a way that's your port of entry, right, and pay attention to it and be in love of self. It doesn't usually come unless it's a life or death situation. If you're in a harsh self rut, it comes when you're in a self-loving rut. So really try to be self-loving.
Yes. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. How can people find out more about you? Can you give them your website and information?
LaurieAnnLevin.com.
Those of you who are interested, it's called Life in Life. Live longer, strengthen your relationships, and create a healthier life, a meditation journal. Laurie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm thrilled about the new release, and I hope to talk to you soon again.
Thanks, boss.
Yes, and thank you to all of our elevated viewers. We will see you next time.